Wrapping up our OnePlus 5 coverage, we've been getting quite a few requests for this matchup. The G6 has become something of an underdog this generation. The phone reviewers love to sideline, often proclaiming it the best Android no one will buy. Yet, people still keep asking about it. Even on my personal Twitter, it handily won an unofficial poll for which phone I should use with my personal SIM. A fresh new take on design with a new display aspect ratio against a premium mid-ranger looking to kill some flagships. This comparison was actually really fun to put together, both for the advantages each phone brings to the table, but also the cons we can criticize. OnePlus 5 versus LG G6? Yeah, let's do this. I always kick these off with design, and immediately I have to give the win to LG. The screen and curved corners, the overall profile, the flat, easy-to-grip edges, the flush camera sensors, the slight RoboCop blue sheen to the rear glass on the titanium model. After some missteps, LG delivers one of the most attractive and well-finished phones the company has ever produced, and it doesn't look like anything else on the market today. The OnePlus 5 is well constructed, and the matte finish feels great against my fingertips. But this isn't my favorite look for a phone. Too much of the overall aesthetic lifted from another device. LG takes an easy win here. The hardware discussion flips the conversation. Launching later in the year, our review OnePlus is sporting the Qualcomm 835, 8GB of RAM, and quadruple the internal storage of the LG. The Snapdragon 821 in the G6 is still a capable performer, and most folks likely won't notice significant differences in performance when looking at social media and communication apps, but the compromise for being one of the first phones of the year was using last year's top-of-the-line chipset. The counter-argument to the OnePlus's raw horsepower are the lifestyle and durability features on the G6. Not just IP68 water-resistant like the Galaxy, but also mil-spec 810G drop-resistant like the V20. And while the G6 is working from a storage deficit and 32GB now feels lean for a modern flagship, you can still pop in a memory card where the OnePlus is dual SIM. By the narrowest of margins, we're giving the OnePlus a win for that newer chipset, but we hope folks won't overlook the collection of benefits brought by the G6 design. Display tech lands another win for LG. Taller screens will be all the rage, and the G6 was first. Nearly identical surface area compared to the OnePlus, but in a smaller form factor, which is a bit friendlier in width for my stumpy thumb. I love the contrast on AMOLED, and more content is currently produced for 16:9, but the higher resolution coupled with some fun software additions to show off the taller shape help LG pull ahead. Software, however, is another battle of nuance. LG is doing a good job of showing what you can do with this new screen, but people who aren't fans of heavy manufacturer skins will not be won over by this latest effort. Oxygen OS on the OnePlus is a fancy name for a lightly tweaked build of nearly stock Android, and when combined with the more powerful hardware and lower resolution display, you get screaming fast performance. We often discuss these issues hypothetically, but I recently ran into a perfect example of why more complicated manufacturer software can sometimes muddy the waters for consumers. Obviously, I'm very storage conscious on the G6, so you can imagine my surprise when I saw that I was almost out of room with a ton of space eaten by this other category. Tapping on this sends you to a stark LG File Explorer with no indication of what's occupying that storage. After a lot of hunting, I discovered that the issue was with the LG Gallery app including a trash folder, and mine apparently wasn't dumping deleted files after 7 days. Total fluke. Now, I really like the idea of a trash can for phones. I think we've all accidentally deleted a file we didn't mean to. But these pieces did not line up. LG storage reporting, 2 different LG file managers, and the Gallery app. None of them properly reported what was taking up space, and I think a lot of folks would have been frustrated by having to unravel that mystery on their own. I personally like what LG brings to the table in customizing their phones, but sometimes simpler is the way to go. Oxygen OS does a better job of getting out of the way for users to focus on the task at hand. A quick word on the radios, the OnePlus proved poor competition for wireless performance. Both LTE and Wi-Fi, the glassback G6 held on to signal better, and sometimes by a fairly significant margin. But what makes the OnePlus a snappier performer also helps it take a battery win. In our media bench, the G6 posts only adequate numbers for a flagship device. I can make it to dinner time on both phones, but I have noticeably more juice left in the evening on the OnePlus. And while the G6 posts respectable numbers for recharging, it's facing one of the fastest recharging systems of the year. Dash charging lands another win for the OnePlus 5. The audio fight is a lot closer. Both phones have mono bottom firing speakers, which are close enough in performance that I really don't feel like wasting the 30 seconds in doing a speaker comparison. The headphone game, however, ekes out a small win for the OnePlus 5. Quality numbers are nearly identical, with both phones delivering true 32-bit playback. But the OnePlus amp is a touch stronger, so it gets the win. Now we get to the camera battle. We have real camera reviews for both, and if you're curious how these two perform, we'd highly recommend watching those separate video reviews for a ton of real-world samples. But to sum it up here, for general performance, these two are neck and neck in good light. And the differences in exposure, saturation, sharpening, and white balance will largely depend on personal preferences. I tend to prefer the exposure on the OnePlus, but the white balance and saturation on the G6. It's the low light game where LG's smaller camera sensor and more aggressive sharpening lose to the OnePlus 5. Night shots look a lot grainier and edgier, and the 5's photo processing is largely able to hang with the G6's image stabilization. The video matchup is an easy win for LG though. Driving the phones with UHD video, hardware image stabilization makes a huge difference in delivering nicer footage. The G6 microphones also provide a nicer audio capture. We're also inclined to give the second sensor win to LG. A little extra zoom is nice, but the ultra-wide view on the G6 adds a lot more flexibility. This means the G6 lacks a portrait mode, and I genuinely do like playing with software blur, but zoom sensor phones are not my favorite way to achieve this artificial depth of field. For the core photography situations people most often need to address when out and about, the G6 second sensor is likely the better solution. Lastly, while the OnePlus 5 has a nicely streamlined camera app, LG is still producing one of the most feature-complete camera control interfaces available on a mobile device. Requisite auto and easy modes, but formidable manual modes and excellent video options. Want to take advantage of that tall screen? Why not shoot some cinema-wide video? All the while being able to control the frame rate, bit rate, and shutter speed. Putting everything together, we have to award the G6 as the better multimedia content creation device. So let's wrap this up. Where does that leave us between the OnePlus 5 and the LG G6? Listing out the various pros and cons, the OnePlus 5 takes an overall win. But what's shocking is seeing how aggressively the price has dropped on the G6. Carriers in the US selling the phone for $150 less than when it launched, and the odd sale where it falls below the OnePlus price tag. In the UK, easily finding the G6 for some £50 cheaper than the OnePlus 5. Flagship killing is a lot more difficult when pricing is this volatile. Which phone would I rather carry? I don't think I'd be much conflicted trading the faster chipset for better design and durability. I like showing off this screen. I like the smaller, skinnier shape. I really like LG's camera features. And if they're both roughly the same price, I think you know which one would end up in my pocket. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more comparisons like these, and make sure you check out our expanded coverage, like our series of real camera and real audio reviews. For Pocketnow, I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, some gadget guy on Twitter and Instagram, and I will catch you all on the next review.